No problem. See you at 1 o'clock. All right.
Hey, you. How are you?
Really good, buddy. You doing okay?
Hey, so I don't know if you remember me, probably not, but you gave me a seminar, a conference in Santander Bank in Boston, kind of 1.5 or 2 years ago.
Oh my God, we gotta talk. Oh my God. I do.
I mean, now I'm a real hacker. Now I can unlock every lock in the gym, and around the building. So how's been breaking through?
We have to talk, buddy. We have to talk.
Yeah. Basically, I'm taking the CE8 and I'm doing again the refresh.
Yeah. My man. Okay. All right. Well, look, let me do this quick webinar.
That's okay. We can talk later. Right? I need to have lunch also. So let's connect later.
Okay, let's get rolling, huh? Okay, so we're starting the webinar here. I want to make sure I'm recording. Turn off camera, mute microphone, invite people, settings, pulling all the stuff. It looks good. I don't know if this is being recorded or not. 512. Okay, guys, let's get rolling. Got the chat set up. Looks like I can do. All right. This is good. This is good. Okay, so what I wanted to do, guys, was just talk about the basics of PowerShell. I really feel like PowerShell is such a good thing to use, specifically for doing IT security. You can do so much with PowerShell. So what I'm hoping that you guys will get out of this is a really good understanding of what you can do with PowerShell from the security standpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link that you can use. And this is the link for all the commands that I'm going to be using this week. So this is the link. Okay. Let me see if I can throw that in the chat. Hopefully this will work. So I'll put that in the, nope, it sure didn't work. So let me zoom in on that link and let me type it in the chat. So there's the link. And let me put the sucker in the chat. All right, so that's in the chat now. And let's get rolling, huh? All right, so I'm going to zoom out on that. The easiest thing to do would be to go here. That's it. And there's a live stream going on. I'll put this out there for so you guys can see it. And I need to erase this stuff, huh? And there's a live stream going on. Okay, so let's do it, guys. So you got the download link for the text file. You've also got a virtual machine, which is a Windows 7 virtual machine that you can use. All the commands that I'm doing from this virtual machine. So let's take a quick little look at this sucker. All right, so what I'm going to do, guys, PowerShell is a scripting language, and it came out pretty much with Vista. PowerShell is basically like a response to with the Windows command shell. And you've got some problems with the Windows command shell. I would say the first real problem that you've got with the Windows command shell, so if you guys look here, I'm going to go Windows PowerShell, run as administrator. So I'm going to start up PowerShell. This is what it looks like. You guys are going to notice it looks a lot like an old DOS prompt. So for those of us who came from DOS, it looks a lot like DOS. So like if you just take a look, let's say I do a dir, right? DOS command. That works. Just say I CLS or PWD, right? It looks a lot like DOS. But if I try something, let's say I do dir/question mark, you have /question mark. That way I could figure out how to use the command. So you're going to notice that PowerShell doesn't really work like that. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed when I did this. If I do a dir, now, PWD, if I wanted to clear my screen in DOS, you would type CLS. But I'll do the same thing, and you guys will notice that I can type clear, the Linux command, dir, which is the Windows command, or I can also do, an ls. Now that's weird, right? But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that you as a PowerShell user can just drive. A lot of us who are Linux users make the mistake of accidentally typing occasionally a Linux command, especially PWD, ls, those kind of things. We make that mistake a lot. That's one of the first little things that PowerShell did. The second thing that they did was to compete with the Linux command shell, a lot of the same features of the Linux command shell, and to compete with languages like Perl, Ruby, Python. They integrated the superclass set from PowerShell. From C#. Game is a really powerful language. So if we want to get a list of the commands that PowerShell has, PowerShell doesn't call them commands. PowerShell calls them commandlets. So I'm going to say get command. Now, did you guys notice when I typed it out, I said get -com like that? Now you can see it's all lowercase. Take a look. So it's all lowercase. tab key and it finishes the command, you'll see the get with the G and the command with the C are now capitalized. So get command, I hit enter, and it's going to give me a list of PowerShell commandlets. Now, PowerShell, like I said, doesn't have commands. They're called commandlets. These commandlets are what you use to execute, anything that you want. They're actually PowerShell scripts. They're actually PowerShell scripts that you can run. So I'll give an example. If you look, you have a Linux command. Here's a commandlet. We'll talk about aliases in a second. So here's a commandlet. It's a PowerShell script, and it's add computer, add member, right? And then over here, they give you the full path and explanation of how to use it. But you also have aliases. So let's say, for example, I want to run the cat command in Linux. It's going to call the get content alias in PowerShell. Really, really handy. So let's say I want to do a get alias. So when I do a get alias, now I get a listing of all of the aliases in PowerShell. So I've got some ones that I really like. Let's say, for example, I do get alias. Let's pipe it to less, and let's take a, whoops. Come on, computer, catch up. So I'll do a quick get alias here. And as we look, they've got, food's here, guys. They've got what looks like Linux commands. So there's that cat command that runs get content. See that? There's clear, where normally in Windows we type CLS. But do you see how it runs the clear host commandlet in PowerShell? Now, I've got one that I thought was really good. I don't know who came up with this, and it probably came after something catastrophic happened. So I'm going to do get process pipe stop process. Now, I don't know about you. I got a feeling this probably isn't a command you want to run. So I'm going to do dash what if. Now, look at this. When you say dash what if, when you hit enter, it shows you what's about to happen if you actually were to run that command. I think that something went boom at Microsoft, and they had to add the dash what if option. So like, hey, before you run that, do dash what if, right? I think that's pretty freaking handy. I hope you think that's handy. Okay, now remember how we did dir /? And it didn't work? Well, remember, DOS says, hey, if you want to learn how a command works, you say /? PowerShell doesn't do that. PowerShell is going to use get help. So you say get help on the command that you want to get help on. So I want to get help, but I want to get help on the get command commandlet. Okay, and then it shows me how to use the get help commandlet. It's a lot like a man page. So let's say I do get help on the get service commandlet. And now I see that get service helps me manage services. So you look at that and you go, oh, wow, that's cool. Get service can actually manage services. So I'm going to do, okay, well, let me get service dash name, and I want to do it on the term service, like this, and the spooler service. Right? So now he tells me, hey, the spooler service is running, right? But the term service isn't. Maybe I'm going to get service on bits. And I can see that the bit service is stopped. So let's do some stuff with that. I'm going to open up this text file because it'll make it a little bit easier for me to copy and paste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set something that I think is really cool. So I'm going to say $serve. So if you see that I do $serve, I'm going to make get service for the spooler service, and I'm just going to assign it to a variable. I don't know about you, coolest freaking thing since sliced bread. I can just say $serve, and now I can interact with any service. So let's say I do this. I'll go $serve dot get. Excuse me. Let's say I do get type dot full name like this. And now I can see it's at system dot service process dot service controller. Excuse me, guys. Allergies are kicking up. Now, the other thing that I have is $serve. As soon as I hit a period, what do you guys notice I can do? You guys see how I tab through all these methods? Remember how I said PowerShell pulls from the C# superclass. So I can do $serve pipe get member, and now I can see all the methods and properties that now this service variable can interact with. Let's take some looks at that. Let's say, for example, I want to do $serve status. And I can get a status on that service. Or I can stop the service. Now, if I go check the status, it still says running. So you're like, WTF? So what you have to do is you have to say, hey, I need to do a refresh on the service like this. Now when I do my status, you can see that it's actually stopped. So think about that, guys. No more SC commands, no more net commands. I can programmatically interact with services. If I want to start the service, like that, now I refresh, check status, I can see the service is running. You can do this with anything, files, folders, services, registry keys. PowerShell can programmatically interact with anything on the entire operating system. So the next thing that I really like is let's dive in here and let's look at a PowerShell commandlet called get event log. So if you guys take a look at that, I can say get event log, and then I can tell it which logs to go get. Hey, PowerShell, go get event log, and the log name that I want you to get is the application. So he goes out, he grabs the application logs. Then I say export CLI XML. So export command line XML. I want you to call it .xml. Call it applog.xml. I think this is the coolest thing since sliced bread, because now I can just yank logs off the machine. No more like stopping the login service, no more like installing Snare or installing like your Splunk Universal Forwarder. You can just programmatically interact with all the logs. Export the logs as XML. PowerShell natively parses XML. So just right off the bat, you can start interacting with all this XML. Now the script is still running, so let's give it a minute. There we go. So I'm going to type, so type /, let me watch, I'll just do type applog. Now, how many of you guys noticed that it put the / in front of it for me. So I'll say type app log, right? And now there's that nice log file. Isn't that beautiful? Now check this out. What if I go $logs? So I'm going to say $logs like this. You can build a variable, and the variable can act basically like an array, right? So you can go, hey, grab my system logs, my application logs, and my security logs. With one line, now you can add, PowerShell has an alias for a %. So if you look, this %, logs for each. That % is for each. It says get event log. Do you guys notice it didn't even matter that I didn't capitalize the G and the E? So it says get event log, log name, $_ just means take one of these up here. So it's going to be grab the system log, then grab the application log, then grab the security log. Then I want you to export them to the same thing, that $_ grab the system log and call it system.xml. Grab the application log and call it application.xml. Grab the security log and call it security.xml, right? I think this is so cool because now I've got two lines of code, and you now have yanked every single log file. So like I said, script is still running because it takes a while to get all these logs. So I'm just going to scroll down so I can get set up for the next set of commands. Come on, PowerShell, hurry up. Let's have a lot of logs today. Come on, computer. Almost done. Come on. I'm like really wanting this to hurry up because I've only got a few minutes left of the webinar. All right, well, I'll just keep talking. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a variable, and the variable is going to be called seclog. And I'm going to import that XML file into the variable. So just like I told you earlier, PowerShell can interact with services, folders, files. You can assign them to variables and interact with them programmatically. Man, that sucker should hurry up. Come on, guys, tell my computer to be like a squashed tomato. Catch up. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in, and we'll assign it to a variable. So I've got a variable called seclog. Now I'm going to say $seclog pipe select last 5. So what he does is he grabs the last 5 entries from that XML file. Such a cool trick. Another one, when I was teaching this class before, I had a student show me this. I thought this was so good. Look at this. Get event log, application, after get date, add days -1. In other words, show me all the log files for yesterday, right? So just the last 24 hours of log files. Like, isn't that a cool one-liner? I love one-liners. So let's say I want to drill into a specific seklog entry. So I can say seklog, right? So $seklog pipe, select first one, pipe FL. So now it gives me the full log entry. Look at that. So if you want to drill down into the individual log entries, you can. What if you're in a situation where you're writing an application that consumes log files, right? And then what you run into is data type issues where you're like, okay, well, what's the exact data type of this, right? So what you have with your methods is get type. I don't know about you guys, man, this is cool. So what you do is just right at the end of it, say get type. And now you can see that it's a string from a base system object. So sometimes when you're parsing in data and you pull in ints, you pull in floats, you pull in strings, when you're looking at different fields inside of a log file, you need to know what is that data type. Talk about so cool. So there's so much that you can do with this, guys. I'm going to do another one. Let's say you're looking for privilege escalation in a Windows machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say seklog, right? The same for each trick that I showed you, but this time I'm looking for individual messages where the SE security privilege is inside of the log entry. And then you say pipe measure. Pipe measure. And what it'll do is it'll give me a count of them. So give me the number of times that the security changed security context, right? Possible privilege escalation. Super, super handy. Now, I can do the exact same thing, and I can group by event IDs. Just like that. Now, if you just want to look at individual log counts, right, I can do seklog.count. And you can see that I got 4,602 log events today. Not too shabby, huh? Well, that's our 30 minutes, guys. We got through some PowerShell. I really hope that you found it helpful. Let me stop my screen sharing. Well, like I said, I really hope that you found it helpful. I had a good time today, and I'm going to be doing this every day this week. So just my 30 minutes at lunch. I'm sorry I can't give you the whole hour because I got to eat too. But I'm going to try to do 30 minutes every day, show you like a little bit of PowerShell so you can play around in it. And then each week I'll do a different programming language. So I'm doing Python, I'm going to do Perl, I'm going to do Ruby, I'm going to do Linux, I'm going to do malware. Every week I'm going to do a different one, 30 minutes a day at lunchtime. So it's kind of like your little lunch and learn kind of thing, okay? All right, guys, I wish you guys all the best. Welcome to the InfoSec Addicts YouTube channel. There's going to be a whole lot more where this came from, guys. Take care.